had a hell of a schedule. They had to play. I think they played 11 back-to-backs in the first half of the season, and in most of those back-to-backs, the second team they're playing is rested, and that hurts a team. And yet the Toronto Maple Leafs, as of this recording, are in a playoff spot with games in hand.
At our expense.
And I told you and others that was going to happen. I told you guys that the Maple Leafs are going to make it to the playoffs, and I still think they are.
Last year when I saw that young team coming up, Austin Matthews getting added to the roster, I figured they'd have a pretty good season.
Yeah.
Not actually as good as they've had. I figured they'd blow some people out of the water, but they've blown teams that I would never expect them to beat out of the water.
I don't think they've lost to the Washington Capitals this year. They have beaten the Washington Capitals both times they've played them. And, we also beat the Washington Capitals this year, which is something we failed to accomplish last year. And we also beat the Montreal Canadiens this year, which we failed to accomplish last year. So I can't say that the first half was the worst thing ever. I mean, we're actually just about the same place we were last year, and we ended up going to the Eastern Conference Final and losing in a Game 7.
Turnaround here.
And teams with big win streaks like the Blue Jackets and the Minnesota Wild, and that game between the Blue Jackets and the Wild was very anticlimactic, only because the Blue Jackets just came in and destroyed the place. They burned their barn to the ground there.
Which, in all honesty, everyone should really expect from this year's Blue Jackets.
I mean, John Tortorella has really turned those guys around, and there's certain teams that he works with and works with well. Grinding teams, he does perfectly. He can't do skill teams, unfortunately, like when he was coach of the Rangers. He can't do that. It's not his style, He's not a coach of high class. He's the type of coach that every Team USA wants, right? They want those rugged teams
that everyone
can
makes
take
fun
on
of.
anybody, that everybody makes fun of, and then they come out as underdogs, because it's always good to be the underdog. And Wayne Gretzky wrote about it in his book, 99 Stories of the Game. He said, when you're labeled as the underdog, you feel like you're playing for something extra, and that usually is what gives you the boost to play harder. And that's right. I mean, you feel like people are counting you out. That's what gives you the extra, motivation to put 3 in the net just to laugh in their face, Like Team USA recently won the World Junior gold medal against Team Canada. They won the tournament with 0 losses. 0 losses. Team USA went through undefeated and captured their 4th ever World Juniors gold medal against a heavily favored Team Canada. And
it's a little depressing considering how many prospects we had on Team Canada. But at the end of the day, the prospects didn't do bad. It's just Team Canada didn't work well enough together to beat Team USA, which, while they didn't have,
they were Team USA. They were the grinders.
They were
the grinders and the workers, and they took it to whoever they played. Team Russia, they went to a shootout the day before the gold medal game, and Parsons did what Parsons does, and just stoned them. It's whoever selected Parsons, as I don't know all of the selections, unfortunately. They've got a treasure, and they need to develop that kid, because he's going to be an amazing goaltender. I mean,
they can hope.
Yeah, he's
not everyone transitions well into the NHL. It's hard for some prospects, but I think he'll do. I think Parsons will do just fine.
Yes, and I hope Ingram of Team Canada will also do well from a selfish perspective, because I do know who selected Ingram, and I hope that that will be strong in goal for quite a while, because I like our goaltending, but we need goaltending prospects who don't have left skis at the end of their names, because we have two amazing Russian goaltenders, but if we need somebody else down there, Adam Wilcox
The good glove
was
of
called up,
Gillespie is only so good.
not played, and that was a big issue with me when Bishop was injured, was that they only played Vasilevsky.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, they way overplayed him.
Throughout back-to-backs, that's the worst part. Playing
and
him a
what was
lot
crazy?
of games in a row isn't fine, but
We played so many back-to-backs in that stretch. I think we played 3 or 4 back-to-backs. I think we actually
went pretty tough.
We had the back-to-back of St. Louis and Washington, and then we went from Christmas break, and then after Christmas break, we went into the little space in between, and I think that was a back-to-back too there. And then we go from that back-to-back to 2 games against the Jets and the Predators, and then to another back-to-back. So it's absolutely ridiculous,
Yeah.
It's actually quite funny that is happening. Like, I find it very funny. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
as
know.
compared to the Blue Jackets, who, when they even had back-to-backs, they weren't very hard back-to-backs. I think the one that broke their streak was probably their worst series of games.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was hard. I mean, I don't envy anybody who has to back-to-back the New York Rangers and the Washington Capitals, or whoever they played first. It was Washington Capitals, right?
It was the Washington Capitals.
Okay, yeah. And they, I wouldn't say they broke their streak, rather than destroyed their streak. That was a blowout of a game, 5-0. And I guess while we're on the topic of Washington Capitals, well, last night there was a bit of a milestone reached by Alexander Ovechkin.
Oh, yes.
1,000 NHL career points. That's goals and assists and secondary assists, which aren't real
Beating
things.
one of the Sedins. One of
Yeah,
them was close.
I would have to say
8 point
that most of those are probably goals in those 1,000 points. Only I say that because Alex Ovechkin is not known for assists, and
he is not. He is a shoot first, team later kind of guy.
And I know for a fact that he had 50 goals one season, like 51 goals, and his plus minus was like -12. So
it's rough.
He was not the best defensive player in the bunch, but he's pretty amazing. He's an amazing player, and that is unquestionable. Like that Sidney Crosby versus Alexander Ovechkin thing that they got, Sid versus Ovi or whatever, and I'm not sure if you've noticed, but they've tried to do that with every other first and second round draft pick, like McDavid and Eichel and Austin and Matthews and Line. I mean, there's no real rivalries here unless they're on teams that are legitimate rivals. Like, they're not going to be that crazy,
And I have my problems with Sid, but he has no rivals right now.
No, nobody.
Ovi is great, but he's not a rival for Crosby.
And they're different. Like, they play different games.
But Crosby just has such a head for the game. It's absolutely aggravating to watch him play.
It's unfair. Yeah, it's ridiculous. He scores goals that, like, kids in their driveway playing with the stick and the ball, like, dream about, And it's absolutely amazing,
I think one of the trends for him right now is batting it out of the air. He's done that a good number of times in the past few games, and that's like a goal.
Yeah, it's very strange. Yeah.
A highlight of a season for most players, but he's done it so many times.
And if you remember correctly, he was out the first 5 games of the season for a head injury or something, and
he's had a lot of head injuries.
And you know what the funny thing is? Somebody said, I forgot who this was, that maybe he wasn't injured, maybe they were just letting everybody else get a head start, and
yeah, right.
And that's kind of what it feels like at this point. He's just ridiculous. And
Steven Stamkos was off to a great season before he got injured, and even then, he was racing Crosby.
Yeah,
for the
and
lead. Absolutely amazing, aggravating.
the funniest thing, right, is that one after another you'll see players and they'll go in and they'll try to check Crosby, right? And Crosby will just be like, you don't exist. Sorry, and he'll score. And it's just
And I don't exactly
insane.
know what that is. Is he just that strong, or does he have
You know,
some sort of technique?
I assume it's a technique or something that he's trained and practiced doing, because obviously you have to have strength to be an NHL player. You have to be able to shrug off these 200 and something pound guys that are, literally out there to stop you from doing what you do. And Sidney Crosby just doesn't care, man. He'll stop. He won't be stopped. It's ridiculous. And teams, I'm not sure if you've noticed, teams have been targeting him recently. Like he's been hit hard in the past few games, which I have to say, obviously that's wrong. You shouldn't target. No, headhunting is wrong, and it's clear that's what's happening, unfortunately. And as much as I'd say that it would even the league out, I still don't want to see it happen, obviously.
At this point, there's no evening the league out. Maybe you could even that division out, make someone stand out.
There's so much parallel in the league right now, though. Anyway, that it doesn't really matter, right? You'll see teams like, I'm not sure if you've noticed, Pacific Division, right? You take their league leader, and he is like in third place in the Atlantic Division, and you take the Montreal, and they're like nobody compared to anybody in the Metropolitan Division. That I don't know what the Metropolitan Division has been doing, but it's like they all took
stacking up those players,
rounds of steroids and just decided to go hardcore this season, and they've been amazing this season, and they have no rivals this season in Metropolitan, and it's predicted that 5 Metropolitan teams will actually go to the playoffs. They will get both wildcard spots and their top 3. And at this point in the season, I can't argue. They've been that good.
No.
There's the Washington Capitals, who won the President's Trophy last year and have made almost no significant changes, are sitting in a wildcard spot at the moment, which is absolutely ridiculous. And the Columbus Blue Jackets, who last year had a 19-game losing streak, are now sitting at the top of the NHL because I have no idea.
Movie-worthy comeback story, if I've seen one.
Exactly. I mean, there was the Mighty Ducks, but then there's also the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's absolutely astonishing.
Miracle on Ice. Bullshit. Tortorella on Blue Jackets.
Tortorella on Blue Jackets. Exactly. It's very, very funny. If you would have told me at the beginning of the season the Columbus Blue Jackets would have a 16-game win streak, I wouldn't believe you. Not for 2 seconds would I believe you. No. I would call you out faster than anything else in the world. It's absolutely ridiculous.
And I don't know if you know, did they get any big, other than Werenski, probably murdering his name, but
I think that's pretty close.
Did they get any big,
big
players?
Not
they get traded.
I can think of.
I know there's one that's been doing all right.
They've all been doing pretty decent in general, but
I mean, someone they got traded. But yeah, it's really just Tortorella that's turned the team around. It's pretty.
I mean, yeah, and
amazing.
as you know, to take it full circle a little bit, Marty St. Louis, his retirement, it'll be against the Columbus Blue Jackets, and John Tortorella obviously will be there, who obviously led the team to their one and only Stanley Cup currently.
I think he'll be saying a little something to Tortorella.
I mean, Tortorella was one of the best Lightning coaches. I think John Cooper has taken that mantle officially, even though he hasn't won us a Stanley Cup. We haven't missed the playoffs.
He's taken us there, yeah.
Yeah, and which is absolutely amazing. He took this he